and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, our flagship stations, as well as Birmingham Area Municipal Access, our TV stations on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. We're also on the radio, 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, online, civiccentertv.com. And today on Facebook, via Facebook Live, for the first time, we are joined by the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, and thank new director Cathy Russ, who we'll have on the show later on today, and the entire team over at the library for joining us on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. And as always, joining me in the studio here at Civic Center TV is Ronnie Dahl.
Hey, Tyler, what a beautiful weekend.
I know. It was a fantastic weekend. Nice and sunny, warmer than was expected. It was supposed to rain on Sunday, and then it barely rained at all. It was fantastic.
There was a drizzle out there Sunday morning, but I will say it's all about perspective. So growing up, I kept telling my niece and nephew, life is about perspective, right? Because if we would have had this weather in June, July, or August, we'd be miserable. But because it's Michigan, we've been through the winter that we've been through, and all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, we went through Arctic temperatures to near 50-degree weather. It was like a party out there. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was a really nice weekend, and it is all about perspective. You're going out there. I went out there in a t-shirt and pants all day yesterday. Went for a walk, went and got my dad some groceries and met up with him, and it was a really nice day and all that. And then on Saturday too, nice and sunny out. Went for another walk and a nice run earlier on in the day, and it was beautiful out. But in the summer, yeah, that would have been freezing cold. We would have been bundled up in our sweatshirts, huddled under a blanket in a corner indoors.
It is funny though, when you see the memes going across social media right now, and they show the people, hey, 50 degrees in Florida and people bundled up, 50 degrees in Michigan, and we're in shorts and out enjoying the weather. But it was beautiful, and I think the sunshine makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very welcome, especially considering the last few weeks how gloomy and gray and snowy and blustery it's been outside. To have that little bit of sunlight gives people some excitement. Spring is almost here. Not yet. Let's not get too excited and tip the scales back in winter's favor, but it's getting close.
But it is March 1st.
It is.
Which really does kind of kick off that spring feeling here in the state of Michigan. But I will say, over the weekend, our dog had so much fun. We took her to Dodge Park both Saturday and Sunday. So I keep telling my husband our dog has a boyfriend. And he's like, don't say those words to me. So there's this big chocolate lab at Dodge Park that I think Trixie is sweet on.
Oh. Okay.
So, but I will say it's been a big part of socialization. So when we adopted Trixie, it was just before the shutdown.
Right.
And then you go into the shutdown and it's a rescue dog. There are a lot of issues, let's just say, minor issues that we're working through with the dog, and it has to do with socialization, because we really can't have people over to our house right now. We do live on the trail, which is such a blessing, but being able to take her to the park, and then she kind of has this little pack that she plays with of dogs, Chester being one of them, which she's really sweet on, but also trying to get her around other people as well. But we haven't had people in our house, Tyler. So other pet owners will kind of understand what you're going through, especially because so many people adopted new pets during the COVID-19 crisis. But when you have a rescue dog, there are certain issues that they come with that you have to work through. And so that is one of them, is allowing people into our home with a dog. But she's getting so much better, though, right now. So we're so happy to be able to have nice weather, take her to the park, and socialize her.
Yeah, it's really nice, and having the nicer weather come back will certainly make that a lot easier. And as we get closer to the end of the pandemic, also, as more people are able to come safely into your home, and it is something that's key for these pets, especially pets that are alone in the home without another pet there with them, that's keeping them company during the day when the pet parents are out. That socialization with other animals like them is really important, and getting them used to other people as well, because they've been so stuck in that pod like we all have been during this pandemic, and it's a completely different perspective for them than it is for us because they don't know what's going on. They think that's normal, and when normal for us comes back, it's abnormal for them, and they have to make a big adjustment.
Right. And so for her, I'm glad you brought up the additional pet issues because I'm trying to convince my husband that Trixie needs a brother or sister. He's not down with it. But one of the issues is she has become so like we're her pod, we're her cohorts, but we're her people. So now she's aggressive about other people coming into the home. She's getting really good with other dogs right now, but it's the people issue that we're working on. So we have our last training over at Union Lake today. They've been great, so we've been doing doggy training through there. But it's been so nice. And plus, I will say, so I keep my smart car for the dog.
Right.
So I have a smart car. It's one of those little tiny electric ones. And I don't like Trixie to drive or ride in my SUV because it has leather seats, she has big paws, and I cover it, but it still doesn't matter, and her dog hair is everywhere. So I keep the smart car just to take Trixie out. And this weekend she was very happy to go out in the smart car. She gets a puppuccino.
Oh, of
She's
course.
a hit.
Big fan.
She was so popular at Starbucks. They're like, what kind of dog is that? Mutt. Well, we don't like to use the M word around Trixie, though. She's unique.
Of course.
So, but the smart car was able to come out this weekend because it was so nice. It was great. Yeah,
it's another benefit is being able to bring Trixie on a drive, maybe tire her out a little bit with all the excitement as you're back in the warmer seasons and the roads are a little bit nicer. Again, let's not jinx anything. It's still only March 1st. Hopefully it remains that way and we're not going back, but it's Michigan weather. We're going back.
Don't say that, Tyler.
At some point.
Don't say that. I remember it was like Mother's Day years ago, and we got like some crazy snowstorm. Like, 10, 12 inches or something crazy like that. But you know what else is really great news over the weekend? The CDC has endorsed Johnson & Johnson's one-dose COVID-19 vaccine. So if we can jump into the headlines, we knew it was coming, but it's now official. A panel of experts that advises the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has given its blessing to a new one-shot vaccine for COVID-19. The Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted 12-0 to recommend the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine for people aged 18 and older. So this is a little bit different, though, because the other vaccines are for 16 and older. The move comes one day after the Food and Drug Administration authorized the vaccine for emergency use, making it the third COVID-19 vaccine available here in the U.S. So unlike Moderna and Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson vaccine requires just one jab. It also stays stable in a refrigerator and doesn't require storage in a specialized freezer. So I think that's really going to be a big part in being able to get it out to as many people as possible. Johnson & Johnson says it has already started shipping the several million doses it has ready to go. Expects to deliver 20 million doses by the end of March, and then by the end of June, the company says it will have delivered enough vaccine to protect 100 million people. So we are on our way there, Tyler.
Yeah, definitely good news. Definitely welcome news. A lot of people were excited and waiting out that one-dose vaccine before they even signed up, before they even got on lists. So if nothing else, this will get more people on the lists to be in line for a COVID-19 vaccine. And while the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is only for, as is mentioned in the article, people 18 years and older, and it's not quite as effective against the virus as the other two vaccines, the two-shot vaccines. It's still a vaccine, and as has been suggested by medical experts, both locally and that we've spoken to recently, and even as far as the national level, at the level of Dr. Anthony Fauci, still suggested to get on whatever list you can get on and get whatever shot you can get of the ones that are currently out there and available, whether it is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine or others. But this is definitely a welcome third vaccine. The one dose is a big incentive for a lot of people to get the vaccine that wasn't there before, because they don't like getting multiple shots from a big needle, and instead you got one shot one time. And as long as you're within the confines of who can get a vaccine at a certain period of time, that will definitely speed things up, being that it's one dose.
So we should maybe try to get one of our experts on this week to talk more about the difference in the vaccines, because one thing they did mention in the article, by the way, if you go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, there we put a link to the article as well. But one thing they were saying is be careful not to compare one vaccine to another or to another. And in the reason being is that they've been studied under different conditions. So it's hard to kind of do apples to apples in the comparison. So maybe we can get an expert on to kind of look at that. The one thing I believe is the good thing about Johnson & Johnson is they're also saying this is pretty good about the variant too. And as we go through now, I think a lot of the focus is going to be shifted on the different variants in the U.S. as well.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's particularly against the South African variant that this particular vaccine is strongest. But regardless, the variants are going to continue to be a big focus, and on top of that, it's also going to connect to the vaccination process worldwide, because as the U.S. gets better with its vaccinations, other parts of the world are going to need help as well, because the more we get everyone in the world vaccinated, the less of these variants that are going to pop up, and otherwise we could see a problem down the line if we're not careful about making sure the entire world is properly vaccinated against COVID-19. We have worldwide herd immunity. There could be more variants down the road that could bring us back in. So that's a different focus for a different day. The good news here is that this vaccine is available. It's going to start to be available soon. It is one dose, and it's effective against some of the variants.
I think the bigger portion with this too, though, Tyler, it has to be with the refrigeration, because we do know that the Pfizer vaccine that came out, you had to have these super expensive, super cold freezers in order to keep it viable, and this is not the case in this vaccine. And when you think about just the day-to-day distribution into how you're getting these vaccines in the arms of the people, that's going to be an important part, and I think it's also going to make it very available to so many more people. So good news over the weekend with that news coming out, and those vaccines are already being shipped. The state of Michigan is expected to get a larger percentage of some of the vaccines this week, so that's good. Hey, I found this next article a little bit interesting. Michigan prison fine for COVID-19 violations. So a state agency has fined a state prison $6,300 for COVID-19 safety violations that were discovered during an investigation of a correction officer's death. Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration assessed the fine against Gus Harrison Correctional Facility in Adrian for violations the agency deemed serious. It is believed to be the first MIOSHA fine assessed against a state agency in connection with the pandemic. So according to the citation, a corrections officer at the prison tested positive on April 17th and reported the findings to the prison officials on April 20th. But that officer was never interviewed to identify close contacts. So by May 6th, 4 other officers had tested positive, and they were all officers the first officer ate lunch with on a daily basis. So since they were not identified as close contacts, they were not required to self-quarantine at home, thus potentially exposing other employees. So the corrections department, though, disagrees with the MIOSHA citation and plans to appeal, according to a spokesperson. But it is very rare to have one state agency find another state agency. It really should happen more than what it does, but this is one of the issues. We know prisons have been a big issue for the COVID-19, but it's good to see that they're saying, hey, you're held responsible because you didn't take the proper procedures.
Right. You're a state level agency. You know these rules. You should be held to a higher standard because you are a state level agency, and following these rules is critical, whether it is employees or it is those that are in prison. These are people that are in situations where they're in very close contact with other people on a daily basis, and to have allegedly skipped through the contact tracing process puts everybody in that facility at risk in a facility that, much like other Michigan prisons and prisons throughout the U.S., has been a major problem area for COVID-19 spread. So good to see that MIOSHA is holding other agencies accountable and not giving a free pass because it's within the government. And as you said, hopefully this happens more often, because it should be happening more often if these violations are occurring, especially as we're now a year into the pandemic. You've had plenty of time, if you're one of these organizations, to get your processes down pat and get things orderly and neat to prevent these kinds of spreads.
So I will say, one of the confusing things for me, Tyler, throughout this, well, there's been several, but is how some agencies are naming some of these violators, other agencies are not. You have to keep in mind, MIOSHA, one of the reasons why they are naming some of the violators is because this is more of an employer-employee risk, and that's when the state gets involved. So there are so many different levels, right? You have you have MIOSHA up against also the state health department, and then your local health departments, and then your local law enforcement as well. So it can get a little confusing, but MIOSHA has been one that throughout this entire pandemic, they've named all of the businesses that they've been citing. But one of the reasons why MIOSHA is involved is, again, that employer to employee risk factors. So keep that in mind. Hey, no surprise on this next one, though. Record crowds flock to 3 of Michigan's 5 national parks. I mean, we've even seen it here on the local level here. Yeah. Most national parks saw a decrease in visitors in 2020. Many faced obstacles brought on by the coronavirus and the restrictions from COVID-19, but that wasn't the case everywhere, as travelers sought out wide open spaces, most frequently during a summer and early fall. That's according to the National Park Service. So 15 parks, including 3 here in the state of Michigan, saw a record number of visitors in 2020. Pictured Rocks, beautiful place. I haven't been there yet, but it's on my bucket list. Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, and then River Raisin National Battlefield Park near Monroe. That one, I think, surprised me. They all topped previous high water marks. Now, nowhere was that more evident than Pictured Rocks. The UP Gym saw a record of 1.2 million visitors that happened. Now, and that breaks the record of more than 41% from the 2019, when a previous record of just 858,000 visitors made their way to the Picture Rocks area. So what an increase. And I will say, looking at like my social media, it seems like everyone was up there. I haven't been there yet, but it's on my bucket list.
Yeah, I've been to Pictured Rocks years ago. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago over one of the summers. My grandparents were in, as was my uncle and aunt from Arizona, and we went up there as a kind of a family trip to Pictured Rocks and to Quamanon Falls and other locations in the Upper Peninsula, and it is breathtaking. It's a very nice location, very beautiful, as is Sleeping Bear Dunes. I've been there a few times. I've not been, however, to River Raisin National Battlefield Park. That is, as you even said, a kind of a surprise to me. Being in the top 15, being in the top 3 in Michigan would have been a surprise to me. Top 15 nationally is also a surprise. But hey, if people are appreciating it that much, there's got to be something to it. Maybe I need to put that on my list.
I will say I've been there. Been there several times,
Okay.
just because covered Monroe, working in Toledo, but also Detroit. Because we do know that the River Raisin typically floods every year.
Oh, yeah.
So we've done so many flooding stories in that area. Very surprised to see that one on the list. Put the other ones on your top list. There are
I'll
many
keep
other
them up
places.
there. A return trip.
Not to say Monroe isn't a beautiful little town.
No.
We're lucky to have it. That's going to wrap up our headlines, but we just want to remind you, if you go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, the tab at the top there, that's where you'll find the latest headlines, but also links for direct resources for you to check out, including the CDC, State of Michigan, as well as Oakland County and our local municipalities as well. We're going to take a quick break here on the show, but it's a new month and a Monday at that. And so we have a good lineup for you here today. We'll be speaking to a couple about the importance of allowing students to experience going overseas, like a study abroad program, why they are so passionate about it and what they're doing to try to help local students get there. We'll also be speaking to our good friend Stacie René, motivational speaker. Cathy Russ will be with us. She is new to the West Bloomfield Township Library. We'll be talking to her about her transition, but also all the exciting things going on at the library. Also checking in with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. And then we'll round out the show today with the Ann Arbor Film Festival. So a great show ahead here on the Oakland County Megacast.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID. The only way to beat
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/contain-COVID.
Great to have you back with us. March 1st on a Monday, Tyler.
Yes.
New month.
Fresh month, fresh week.
And the sun was shining.
Yes. All good news. All welcome. Very welcome.
It's very promising. With that, though, I will say I'm excited to talk to our first guest. If you are lucky enough to do a study abroad program while you're in college, it is such a blessing, but it can also be life-changing. Our next couple here with us on the show have tried to make it their mission to provide such an experience for some local college students. With us now, Karl Plattenberger and Michele Plattenberger. They both are connected to Oakland University. Great to have you both here with us on the show.
Thank you for having us.
So, Michele, I guess we could start with you, because you came across this passion. Tell us about your experience and how you got this started.
It actually started young, I guess, my influence with Japanese around me, but I had an opportunity to study abroad at Oakland University. I'm an alma mater of Oakland University, studied there, and I had the opportunity to study abroad, but it was going to be very costly. So unless I got that scholarship, I wasn't going to be able to go. And I happened to get it, lucky me, and the study abroad program was amazing, life-altering, life-changing, absolutely amazing. And so it's something that I've always said, any student, whether in high school or in college, it's something that they should experience, whether it is short-term, 2 weeks, a semester, or a year. I think it's really important because it does change your perspective on the world.
It really does. And Michele, give us a little bit about your background and why this experience was so life-changing for you.
Well, background-wise, I studied at Oakland University. I don't actually know why. No one was pushing me to do this. Somebody had come into the classroom, into the International Studies course, and talked about study abroad. And I thought, this is something I want to do. I was studying engineering, but through Oakland University, you also have general ed requirements in language, and the international study is part of that as well. And because I live in Detroit studying engineering, I knew I was going to be in automotive. And I thought it would be very important to learn Japanese over any of the other languages offered that could help in my career. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to travel, study abroad for that 1 year. So I separated from the engineering, and I went and obviously language, culture, mostly culture in that, theater, things like that, studied while I was there. But bringing that back then, and what it's done for me what it did for me in school, finishing school up with my engineering degree, and the jobs that I have had over the years using my Japanese. It has been that study abroad experience that has led me to more and more.
I always say the best thing any type of any student can do right now to get ahead in the workforce, learn a foreign language. But with that, Karl, you two meet, you end up getting married. How did you get swept up into Michele's passion for Japan?
Well, it's kind of funny because we kind of briefly met at an internship before she went away on her trip, and I think I was there for some of her classmates or something had organized a going away party for her to send her off, and literally we were casual acquaintances. And I do remember she was over there for a year. I honestly never thought I would see her. We would meet up again. And then partway through her stay there, the Kobe quake had occurred. And I remember being in college, and one of my friends flipping through the news channels and says, "Oh, Kobe quake. Oh, I don't know anybody there." And he kept flipping back, and I was like, "Well, I think I know somebody there, so please go back." And went back, and luckily, nobody familiar came across as being impacted by it. But I do remember having a conversation when we met up on the street coming back, and just being more aware of, it makes it more personal. And there was, events even when we were over there. There was the tsunami when we ended up going back over to Japan, and when you're close to some of those things, you get more empathy, you have more understanding for what people are going through.
So, Karl, we can back up for a second. You just mentioned when we were over there. So you two end up living over in Japan.
Yes. So briefly meet.
I'm thinking about this conversation with my husband. Hey, baby, we're moving to Japan. He'd be like, yeah, no.
Yeah, well, that was what we kind of joked about. Is we always said there was a condition of our marriage. She says if we ever have an opportunity to live and work in Japan for 3 to 5 years, we do it, sort of thing. And I said, oh yeah, sure, not thinking that it was really going to be anything that was going to present itself with it. And sure enough, within a couple of years, that came up. And we didn't end up just 3 years, we ended up 6 years and having 2 kids while we were there.
Look how life takes you on a path you didn't plan. Michele, if we can jump back to you for just a second, can you talk about how that one experience of living abroad has set you on a different path in life?
Oh, honestly, it really has. And I actually teach Japanese at Oakland University as well. And one of the things I tell my students all the time is that, I have the engineering background and credentials, so that gets me the interview. My resume shows that. I submit, even internally, where I was working at the time, internally, if you wanted to change roles, you had to have your resume updated. And one of the things I tell them is it's my credentials that have them look at me, but it's always, 100% of the time, the fact that I did study abroad, or later on, it was when I worked with the automotive company and spent 6 years in Japan. It's always these positions, these study abroad programs or work abroad programs that have gotten me the next level position. Because it makes you, it's global. It's a global business now, right? And no matter what industry you're in, it's global, and it gives you a different perspective. Now, my personal passion is with Japan. I very much enjoy it. I call it my hobby now. But I tell any of my students and anyone willing to listen, it doesn't matter where you go, but definitely study abroad. Do that either in high school or in college.
So Karl Plattenberger and Michele Plattenberger with us here on the Megacast, and I will say it is a blessing to be able to do one of these study abroad programs, but they are expensive. I was devastated. My niece had worked 2 jobs last summer to be able to do a study abroad program in Italy, and she was there for just a few weeks, and COVID hit, and she got sent home. So she didn't get to finish that experience, but it does change you and it impacts you, but it's expensive. So for those students that are just trying to even pay their college tuition, how is something like this possible? What do you say to them?
Well, I mean, the good thing is that there is a lot of recognition out there of the value in doing it. And Japan specifically is very supportive of bringing in individuals that are going to learn and take back valuable lessons from their culture and from the way they operate, and they welcome the opportunity to expose themselves to the international students as well. And we're trying to contribute to that as well. I mean, our contribution is somewhat modest now, but we're committed to it, and we really want to encourage it. It's the standards of living improve when you have free exchange of ideas and commerce, and that includes student education, and it includes cell phones and watches.
So you started this endowment over at Oakland University. Tell us more about that and some of the students that have been able to benefit from your generosity.
Yeah, so, as I encourage my students, if you can study, even if, short term or for a full academic year, I push that. I would pay for them to go if I could. I think he would appreciate that. But, I've always wanted to support. So, beyond letters of recommendation, what? So we had talked about doing, donations. And Oakland University does a lot of scholarship coordination. So we started actually in that area, just doing scholarship donation. And I knew it was something that I wanted to be perpetual. I wanted to make sure that although small in the bigger picture of what total costs it is, but I wanted to make sure, and if this is just the stepping stone, maybe we can make sure that there's 2, maybe there's 3. He doesn't know all that yet.
He's finding out now, right, Michele?
Now, right? But
That's okay. I'm married too. Sometimes, they just find out along the way.
He can keep up. It's fine. But it's important to me to help the students where I can. It is a big financial commitment, and I want to be able to help. And I can't pay for their trip, but this is something that we can do. Make it perpetual to support these type of goals.
Yeah, and we there's other avenues too. So where we can provide a portion of it or get their foot in the door. There's you can combine scholarships, you can combine grants, you can look for grants.
Yes.
She's had fairly good success in recommending students for certain studies. She's got one student who actually got a pretty substantial grant from the government over there, and is well situated, and a lot of resources making those connections and finding them. The important thing on this is you really have to have somebody who wants to go and experience it, and to do that, sometimes they may have to do a little bit of extra work. But if you are interested in doing it, there is generally a way to achieve that.
And through Oakland University, they have the International Education Department, and there's many scholarships there for study abroad. So just listed on that page alone, I think I was there earlier this week, and I think there are 10 just on that page alone. And then they take you to external. Through Oakland University, they have their scholarship opportunities, but then there's external opportunities as well, and there are many.
It really is a life-changing program, not only for us to go over, but from the life standpoint of individuals from foreign countries that come to study in the United States. And you guys are fascinated with Japan. I had a cousin that while she was in college, we're from a very small town in Ohio. There was a Japanese exchange student. They ended up getting married. They're still here, but their kids are in their 20s now, but they did go live in Japan for a while to be able to study that a portion of their heritage as well. But on top of that, the life skills that you get out of that, right? To be able to speak a foreign language is so vital, but it goes beyond the language. It's knowing the culture and knowing the nuances. But we're also in the middle of a pandemic in which people can't really travel overseas. So how has that sidelined your efforts, or has it sidelined it at all?
Well, I mean, clearly there is a slowdown in the exchange, which is kind of good news for people going on, because I think that there's probably a lot of unclaimed scholarships and opportunities this year that will, likely roll over in the near future. But again, if there's a will or a way, our daughter is actually studying over in Spain. The process started in January last year. It was a grueling process right up until we put her on a plane in September to get through, particularly with all of the restrictions and things that are going on. But it can be done. It's going to be a different experience, and that was what we kind of coached her on when she was going over there. Is it might not be what everybody has advertised up to this point, but it's still a cultural experience. But everybody's going through this now, so you're going to get a different, the same COVID-19 experience, but you're going to get it, in a culturally different way.
Yeah, I will say I was so heartbroken when my niece got sent home. We were all going over to Italy because she was going to be turning 21 while she was over. So we were going to surprise her and go over for her 21st birthday. So she got sent home early and our trips got canceled, but at least you got to experience it for just a little bit. But it's like you said, it's experiencing it on a global platform. How can people find out more about this? If they're listening and you're a kid and you're just dreaming, you're sitting there and studying abroad seems like a world away. It's just a faint dream. How can they tap into this resource to make it a reality?
Well, first thing to do is to check your academic advisor sites at Oakland University, and if you're not there, any of the sites that you go to. Most of the programs, if you just looked up studyabroad.com programs, they'll have a link in there for financial aid and resources. You also, speak with your professors and your instructors too, because generally they will have, a lot of times they're just waiting for somebody to ask them.
Most high school programs have study abroad or cultural exchange programs, so that I hear about lots of hosting opportunities. You can host a student, right? But you can also participate in that program for study abroad. So that is available. Talk to your academic advisor at the high school level. But most colleges in Michigan, the main program is through Japan Center for Michigan Universities. That's where I went to school. And so you work through your personal the college that you are attending, and then that is a program that you can participate through Michigan Consortium.
Just another minute or so here with you on the Megacast. And Michele, if I could ask you this, because this adventure in your lives kind of really started with you. When you took that first trip, did you know it was going to have such an impact on the rest of your life?
No, not at all. And in fact, I think we arrived on a Thursday, and I thought, I'm getting on a plane. I'm out of here. I can't even, what have I done? I was so scared. No one's ever done anything like that in my family before. I was so scared. But again, I went to Japan Center for Michigan Universities. The program is so well done. They got us incorporated into the dorms. I actually stayed in the dorm because it's a little bit more costly to do a homestay, but I highly recommend that. But staying in the dorm, they got us grouped with a women's club in the area in Hikone, and they took us grocery shopping. They taught us about the foods. Just going to the grocery store was an adventure, but teaching us how to use the appliances in the kitchen, which are a little bit different than what we're used to here in the United States. But again, the program was so well done that by Sunday I was like, nope, I'm never leaving. I love this place.
And she's been to Tokyo Disney 5 times and not been to once.
That tells you something. Michele, before we let you go, today is March 1st, and it does kick off Women's History Month. And with that, you also are in the world of engineering, which typically is not a female-dominated world. So now you're passionate about Japan, but you're also passionate about engineering. Any advice for women that you would give them right now on this March 1st day?
Absolutely, networking. So I am involved in many professional groups, Society of Women Engineers. I was involved as a student at Oakland University and very much involved at the professional level. In fact, working with the Japan Women's Innovative Network as Society of Women Engineers goes global, and also CADIA Connects. I'm involved with that group as well, which is diversity and inclusion group, and working to support women and networking. That's the biggest thing.
Well, we so appreciate the time for both of you. Karl, did you want to leave us with any last words of advice from your perspective on this adventure?
Well, I was just going to say, I had many conversations with the guys in Japan, and we all recognize that it's really the women that run the world. We just stand in for them from time to time.
Oh, that makes a happy marriage right there. So thank you for recognizing that, but also thank you to the both of you for this great gift that you're giving to students as well, because just as it's changed your life, and Michele, but also your life, Karl, it's going to change other students' lives as well, and we're so lucky to have you in the community.
Thank you.
Karl and Michele Plattenberger with us here on the Megacast. They are connected with Oakland University. Michele teaches Japanese there at the students. Find out more about them and the exchange program that they are helping to send students on there through the Oakland University. We're going to take a quick break here on the show, and when we come back, Stacie René, our motivational strategy speaker, will be with us here on the Megacast.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries, but you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. MyBridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Have you with us here on the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. As a reminder, you can always catch Tyler and myself here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. The focus of our show, the COVID-19 pandemic and how all of us are coping, but also telling stories of so many people here in our local community. You can always watch and listen to us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have a cable, tune us in, Channel 15 Comcast 99 on AT&T. If you're out driving around in your car, you can also tune us in to 89.3 Lakes FM, as well as 88.1 FM The Biff. Tyler, I used to be a shopaholic. I'm in recovery.
That's good.
But I will say for so many people, one way to pass the time is to go shopping. When you're bored, you go shopping. You're stressed, you go shopping. But at the end of the day, you realize you just have a ton of clutter. And right now, one of the things that I and so many other people are doing because of COVID-19 is we realize the more time we spend in our homes, the more crap we have in our homes, and we're trying to offload it. But to talk a little bit more about our connection to materialism, we are joined today by Stacie René, our motivational strategy speaker and mindset life coach. Stacie, we always love having you on the show. Happy Monday to you.
Good morning and happy Monday to you and everyone out there listening or watching. Great to have you, and I'm excited to provide some new outlook for you today.
I will say it does seem like because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are seeing two things. Number one, it's very easy to shop online right now. My Amazon, it's like your finger just swipes. No, don't swipe, but it swipes. You know, and because they make that it's so easy, just one swipe and then it shows up at your door. Of course. But on the backside, so many people right now, Stacie, are also finding that their connection to shopping and materialism is not giving them the satisfaction that they had hoped for when they purchased it. How do we break the habit?
Well, Today, we really truly live in a consumer-driven society, largely, which depends upon, the ads that we see on Facebook or online. And really, we're kind of getting brainwashed to believe that we need the newest and greatest things. And it does not really relate to our happiness. And, once our basic needs are met, and we have to remember that buying does not create happiness. And I know that there's been several studies that have been done, and it's been strikingly significant and the same over and over, that buying a lot of things really diminishes our well-being. So the more you have, the more you run around, you're really a servant to your possessions. So you're probably like, oh gosh, where do I begin? What do I do? So the first thing is recognize that you don't need everything in addition to be happy. And if you have to buy something, hold off and think about it for about a month, and then go for more of like a quality purchase than just, I'm just going to buy this because it's on sale. I am so a victim of it's on sale because I love to save.
Oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not the only person. I don't know how many times I bought things just because this is such a great deal. I have to get that, right? And then you're like, post it, look to social media, look at the savings I had. But if you never use it, it's not really a savings.
No, and it's not. And the point of really putting this out there is to have everybody stop and think about their next purchase. I mean, I love buying things, and if there's not an Amazon box on my doorstep when I get home, I'm kind of like, oh man, but it's a temporary fix. Obviously if it's not there, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe tomorrow. But what I just learned was a very valuable lesson. I just recently had to go and clean out my mom's condo. The things that were in there were shocking. And I had to take a hard look around to see what she had. My eyes were open. I stood there, tears rolling down my eyes. Everything that my mom thought she needed just sat there for years, untouched, but yet she kept needing more and wanting more and not being able to throw things away. And now look at it. It's either has to be thrown away because it is expired beyond belief. It has so much dust on there that it doesn't have a value to it, which somebody else could have used. So we salvaged what we could, but we had to throw away a lot of things. And, it really opened my eyes to a lot of what is life about? What do you truly need, and how do you move forward? Because you cannot lead a happy life with material things, but you can lead a happy life with people and quality and friends. And that's something that I think we need to open our eyes up to a little bit more, especially with everything going on these days.
And so with that, when you're looking at some of the items, we've seen right now, because so many people are spending more and more time in their homes, but yet it seems like on one side, they maybe aren't buying, like clothing and shoes and things of that nature, but now they're buying more things from for their home because they're spending more time in their home. So how do you balance between improving a space to make you happy and just filling it with junk?
I think taking a step back, what do you really need in your home? And when we are in our home more, we're looking at appliances, or we're looking at bowls or utensils. Well, you have to get rid of old ones first before you buy new ones. Take a moment and say, oh, well, am I buying this because it's on sale, or am I buying it because it's going to make me feel good and I got a deal and it's just going to look great in my kitchen? And again, it's going to be great for a few minutes, but there's so many things that we forget about when we buy things. The maintenance, but just it's crazy.
I'm like, Stacie, have you been to my basement? Because it is, and we've cleared it out a few times. Like, we've had relatives who have come in and taken away truckloads of stuff, and our basement is still so filled with stuff.
Yes. Well, so since I've been back, and again, I was there for a couple of days, but it really opened, like I said, opened my eyes. So I came home and I went and I looked in this closet, and all morning I actually was seeing what I could return on Amazon. I have right now 12 items that have not been touched that I still have time to return them. because, during loss, I'm like, oh, this is great. I need to have this. I don't need it. I went and I looked at my closet and I'm like, I have not worn that because I need to save that because I'm going to probably get back down to that size, or if I get bigger, I'm going to probably want to wear that size. So it really does a mind craziness on your life. And there's just so many things that we can think about, and about not buying happiness. Like, we always want to buy something new and it doesn't impress others. We sometimes buy things, oh, look at my new bag, or look at what I have, but it doesn't impress others. You're doing it for yourself, but it's a temporary fix. And it adds a lot more worry and anxiety, because the more stuff that you have, like you talk about your basement. You go down there and you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to turn around and walk away.
I do that. And I have a back bedroom too, by the way, filled with clothes on the beds. I'm like, okay, I'm going to donate this. I'm going to sell this. And now that back room is unusable.
Yeah. And think about it. Anything you buy actually costs more than what the value of the ticket says. And that's a mouthful, but think about this, okay? You have to store it. You have to move it around. It fades. It may not be there anymore. You have to, get it cleaned, and it just, half the time it just sits there. So a lot of times it gives us more anxiety, and there's more maintenance to what you just purchased than you really realized.
So as we're about to be sucked into some of the ads, you mentioned Facebook. I have been caught up in those as well. Before we swipe yes and give that credit card number, how can we stop ourselves?
Hold off. If you need to open it into the Safari link, which I know that we can do because I've done it several times, and I've done that. I actually started to do that a couple of times because there was this really cute mesh thing that I thought would be cool in the car for our little Izzy girl, our dog, and that way it could be mesh in the back there. And I looked at that 2 months ago, and I still don't have it, and I still don't need it. But I had to think about the purchase before I did it. And, if you want some ways to declutter, to think about that, think about the unused, go around your house, look at the unused makeup, look at the medicines, the shampoos, the personal care stuff that you no longer use. And I went and did that this morning. I opened up my underneath the sink and I was like, when is the last time? It looks pretty in there because it's all organized, but it is probably really expired.
Oh, yeah. So, Stacie, number one, I will say, I live with a comic book collector, so that world is a little bit different, and those discussions are very different. But you mentioned your dog, and my husband keeps telling me, you cannot bring, for every toy you bring into the house, you have to get rid of 2. And I'm like, no, but she still likes it. And he's like, it's chewed up. I'm like, no, it's in the doggy hospital. I'm going to sew it up. But they have memories attached to them.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, walk into someone that you love, their home, and look around. Look at the memories that it holds. My mom saved all the books and magazines that I was in. She saved an old award that I had. And what did I do with it? It doesn't mean and she saved everything, but where's it going to be at the end of the day? It was happy, and everything, again, she worked for, that she had, that she thought she needed, is either donated to somebody else or no longer of value. And that's the biggest thing. The memories, the time with your friends, the laughter, that's what we really need to dig deep and see. And, there's a couple other things that you can do to declutter is, again, go through your makeup, go through your medicines. Those are probably expired. Look at your electronics. How many electronics do you have? And the cords that you have that you no longer use, they're stashed in a junk drawer. I mean, I know I'm hitting some buttons. What about boxes of appliances that we have that, you know what, if this breaks down, I'm going to return it. And then I have a whole back room full of boxes because I may have to return it someday. Expired food. I'm telling you, I'm hitting some buttons. Expired food. Go through your refrigerator. And there's some expired food, my friends. And books. How many books do you have outside of the Positive Shift that you really will refer back to? You like that plug in there. Of course.
But I do buy books, and I buy them to donate them, but they never seem to make it from my basement to
Exactly.
to the shelter.
Exactly. So your to do is to go home and find 3 books that you just, you know what, donate them. Just donate them. And then, like I mentioned earlier, cookware, how many things that you need, how many utensils, how many bowls, how many Tupperware, linens in your closet. Before I did leave, I will tell you, I did buy some new towels and I went through our linen. And do you know, I had 3 very stuffed large garbage bags of linen, towels, pillowcases. I mean, you name it. I got rid of it. And you know what? I actually took that to the animal shelters because they need that stuff. So it made me feel good that I was moving it forward to somebody. And I when I got home, I looked at my closet. I'm like, this is the only organized closet. And boy, does it feel good. Think about these things. The less stuff that we have on our own, the more that you can focus on what's important to you. Friends, family, laughter, quality time.
So when we do that, Stacie, what does it really do for us, though? You're saying, like, can it uplift our mood and put us on a different path?
Absolutely. Because when you get together with your friends, your family, anyone, what do you do? You don't talk about, oh my gosh, when I, 3 years ago, when I bought this vest that I really had to have. You don't talk about that. You talk about, oh my gosh, you remember that vacation we went on and we thought it was really funny, and we ended up going down this slide and something happened. You talk about the memories of the experiences that you've had in life. Or, hey, remember when you came over and we were going to have a bottle of wine, and 3 wine later, we're laughing our butts off and you ended up having to stay the night. So you talk about the memories the most, and you don't have to throw those memories away.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Stacie René with us here on the Megacast. She's a motivational strategy speaker and mindset life coach, and also a person speaking truth right now, because Stacie, so many things you just said to me, I'm like, checkbox, 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 because there are sometimes I walk into a room and the clutter overwhelms me and I just shut the door and I walk out and I say, I'm going to get to that later.
Right. So I just, that's why I thought this was important, because this is true life experience, what I just went through. I always said, I'm going to get rid of stuff, and I always fill it back up. Or, I'll get to it later. And all I do is I walk away from it, getting nothing done, not accomplishing anything, and it stresses me out and gives me more anxiety. So when I came home, I said, I am going to declutter. I'm going to get stuff. And one of my best friends says, heard that before. I'm like, actually, I had the truth. I had the reality. So go into, if you have parents or someone that you love that you will have to take care of that stuff, go into their home and say, what would you keep in there? What would you truly keep in there? It will open your eyes to your own home.
That could be a scary thought with that
it
as well.
It is horrible.
But Stacie, during the pandemic, are you finding that people are shopping more and adding more to their homes, or are they going through this cleansing process saying, I need to declutter?
I think some may, but I think the overall buying things is self-medication that really has value at the moment, but then it dissipates very quickly with the next thing that you're going to purchase. And then that gets to the wayside. And, ooh, look at what I just got, And I was excited about getting a new water bottle, and I used it for about 2 days. And then guess what? I haven't touched it since.
I've stopped using Tupperware, because anyone who uses a lot of Tupperware, it's like the lids never match the bowl. It's a hot mess in your cabinets. But my new obsession, obviously, different water bottles. It's taken over while I cleared out the Tupperware, and I now do glass because it's safer for you to in the microwave and things of that nature. I've just replaced it with this stuff. So I'm like, the lids don't match the cups, and I'm always, it's just a process, Tyler, I'm telling you. But with that, Stacie, the one thing I love about you is it's about setting your day off on the right foot. How do we do that?
The first thing when you wake up out of bed, I always like to say, don't touch your phone. Do not touch your phone, because you know what? There's a lot of things on that that will start your day off, and you go, woo, and you'll go down. You have to, if you don't take care of yourself first thing in the morning, then who is going to? And you have to set the tone for your day. Know what you want to accomplish. At least write 3 things down that you want to accomplish and 3 things that you're grateful for. And that sets the tone. That gets you started. Then look at your phone and be like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to make sure that I'm focused on this and I'm going to take care of these things. And that you also took some time for your self-care. And then maybe put on there, hey, I'm going to get rid of 3 things today. And if it's easier for just to do 3, but don't make it too far-fetched, because then it becomes, again, overwhelming when you have like 5 or 10 things on there. Start off with a simple 3. It's an easy, simple number. And then once you get those 3, if you want to add on 2 or 3 more, go for it.
You always have such great advice for us here. Stacie René, motivational strategy speaker and mindset life coach. Anything you want to add before we say goodbye to you today?
Just take care of yourself, make the memories, know who's valuable. And I have an ask for all of you out there today. If you can send a text message or a phone call to somebody that you've been thinking about, don't just put it in your head. Take action. It will make their day, and it will make you feel better too. And, you know, again, start your day off the way that you want to.
I love that, because it is so many times, right? We think about things, but we don't follow through on those things.
Right.
And it's just what you were saying. Hey, just want to say hi, have a happy day. So.
And they may not need that one person that you sent that to may have needed it right at that time. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, didn't do a darn thing.
Stacie, always great talking to you. We wish you a very happy Monday.
Thank you. You too.
And also a happy March.
Yes, absolutely.
Support women. It is Women's History Month, and Stacie René does just that each and every day, lifting all of us up. So we want to say thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, second hour getting underway. And when we come back, we will be talking about the West Bloomfield Township Library, one of my favorite places. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Welcome back to the second hour of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. Tyler, I do love the new studio.
It is.
So they built a new studio here in our TV station for us to be able to do the Megacast. Before we were in the radio station, which was a little bit cramped.
A little tight.
But the new one is big and spacious. But the one thing is, I feel like all I see are my fingerprints everywhere. So I'm constantly wiping everything down because my fingerprints are everywhere. Do you do that like in your car? Do you have is the interior of your car black?
Yeah, it is, and I do that pretty often in there. I'll just look up after a couple of weeks, and it'll just be dust over the dashboard, and I'll just be like, how did this happen? I just wiped you down. I'll wipe it down again. I'll come back out in 48 hours. It'll be completely full of dust again, and I'll just be completely perplexed. What's going on here?
But the funny thing about this, prior to COVID, I never really thought about this stuff. But now every place I go, I think cooties. Like, you know, you're in elementary school and it's your cootie shop because you're leaving your cooties behind. So when they're talking about how the virus spreads and this, that, and the other, you do realize, like, oh, I'm leaving my DNA everywhere.
Yeah, I never realized how disgusting I was before the pandemic. I had a slight idea, but that's just it's disturbing.
I didn't mean it like that.
I meant it like that on a personal level. I don't mean that for anybody else. Just on a personal level, gross.
But I guess like for forensic people,
yes,
they appreciate it, right? Because we leave our DNA everywhere we are. But I will say. That's one thing out of COVID-19 that I've become to realize, and I don't think it will be leaving us anywhere anytime soon. No. But so we got a little bit sidetracked, and we should apologize because our next guest, we want to say congratulations to her. Cathy Russ joins us now on the Megacast. She is the new director for the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Tyler.
Hello.
And you know, I have to say, before the pandemic, the public library is by far one of my favorite places. And as a young girl, I grew up in Tiffin, Ohio, and I remember to this day getting the new library when it opened. Like, going there every Saturday morning and just going through the book section, I could get lost for hours because it's a new world. And the West Bloomfield Public Township Library, I live in Kegel, but you're our library system here, and you go in and they have that back magazine spot with the fireplace and all the magazines, and I was just in library heaven. So welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So give us a little bit of your background. We know the previous director retired, and we wish her the best in retirement. And now we have you. It's great to have you here with us.
So, gosh, I'm not embarrassed to admit it, but I've been in libraries for 30 years. So I started when I was 6. And I had the same experience you, Ronnie. When I was a kid, I walked into the Troy Public Library, and I just thought it was the best library I'd ever seen. My family had moved around a lot when I was a kid, so I'd been to a bunch of different libraries, and all the books, and it just blew me away. So fast forward several years, and I was out of college looking for a full-time job, couldn't find one. There was a recession on. I had a degree in communications, just not having any luck. So I got a part-time job at the Troy Public Library in circulation. And that's the department that checks the books in and checks the books out and collects your money for your fines, gives library cards. And I was very shy. And I was very much a person who, if you had a fine on your library card, I would look down and say, you owe, and didn't want to have the confrontation.
Cathy, you had a degree in communications, but you were shy?
Yes.
Okay, that's a discussion another day.
It happens.
Yeah. Well, or just not, let's just say not confrontational. And, to ask somebody for money to pay their fines and I could make a little conversation, but just not sure what I was going to get back. Let's put it that way. So after about 6 months, the library basically cracked me out of that, and I was on my way to being able to talk to anybody about anything. So I worked at a bunch of different places. I became head of circulation at Bloomfield Township Library eventually. My first library director job was at the Centerline Public Library, and that was a great experience because it was a small library and I got to do everything, but that's when I fell in love with being a library director because it was the big picture. And I really liked having the whole rather than just like the slice of the pie. And so that I was at Centerline for 5 years. I then went to Chelsea District Library, and helped build a new library out in Chelsea. I came back to the Troy Public Library, had the opportunity to become director there, and it was very close to my heart because that's where I'd grown up and where I got my first job. And I was there for 13 and a half years. Loved it. Worked on several different millage campaigns, funding issues for the library, some crises. But then the opportunity came up at West Bloomfield Township Library, and I really thought about it because I enjoyed where I was, but there's something really, truly special about West Bloomfield. It's such a fabulous community, great building, great staff, great reputation. And I thought, if I'm going to have one more new challenge in my career, this is the challenge I want to have. So I was very fortunate that they offered me the position. I have been here for almost 3 months, and so far so good, I think.
We're very lucky that you accepted the position, but can I ask you on a personal level, what's it been like for you to start a new job in the middle of a pandemic?
That's a great question. It's been weird. It's been weird to start a new job because I haven't had a new job in almost 14 years. So even going through the interview process, having not had an interview in 14 years, and to do that via Zoom, different, very different.
Right.
And then to start a new job, one of the things that I am missing, and I understand it can't be helped at this time, but I really like to know the community where I'm working. I like to know the patrons. I like to know, the movers and the shakers, and just get to know people and get to know my staff too. And one of the things that's been a challenge is, we're all so segregated. Even my administrative team meetings with my department heads, we have them via Zoom. And you can still get to know people, but going through the building when everybody's masked, and I can tell you that in my first month, I probably introduced myself to the same person 4 times, just because, with masks, it's like, have I met you? Do I know you? And there might be a couple people that I hope I've met everybody. I think I've met everybody. But if there's anybody I haven't met, I promise I'll get to you. And if I've introduced myself to you 17 times, apologies.
We all experience that. So you're not alone in that, where you'll even run into people that you do know fairly well. And if they have a mask and glasses on at the same time, and throw a hat on,
it's over.
I'm totally lost. But when we're looking at the library, and I know that you're new to West Bloomfield, but even in your time with Troy during the pandemic, the great thing, the library is back open, but there are restrictions, but also the need for the library and how you've had to shift how you service the community electronically. Can you tell us a little bit about that, just from your perspective in both communities?
Sure. Well, I can tell you, one of the things that I really appreciate about West Bloomfield is that it is open to the public, and we're on a grab and go model where you can come in, you can browse, you can use the computers for up to 45 minutes. We ask that you limit your visit to about 45 minutes. There aren't places to sit, the study rooms aren't open, and so forth. But I appreciate that the library is open to the community, because I think if the library can be open, it should be open. People need the computers right now. They need it, if you don't have a computer at home or you need help registering for a vaccine site. Maybe you're not really comfortable with your computer skills. The library is a place where you can go. I think certainly during the first stages of the pandemic, the library was huge because it provided electronic resources. So even if you couldn't come into the building, you weren't cut off from gaining access to books and materials. We have so many streaming services. We have ebooks that you can download. And, I was listening to your interview with Stacie and hearing about books and everything. And, I'm very much a person who, I don't want anyone ever to be without a book. And, that the library can still provide that to people. And, even if you you're not a reader, but you like digital media, streaming movies, streaming music, we have all of that for you. Troy Library is not currently open to the public for different reasons. And that's one thing where Troy Library had to very much increase its expenditures for electronic resources and increase the publicity to let the community know that those resources were available, because they couldn't come in the physical building. And so, and life goes on too, right? I mean, you still have research needs, you still have questions you need answered, whether maybe you're starting a business and you need help with a business plan. Maybe you have a medical condition that you need to do some research on. The library is still here for you. It might be here in a little bit of a different way, but all the services are still there, and we want people to take advantage of them.
Cathy Russ with us here on the Megacast. She's the director for the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. We are so blessed to have you join our community here in the greater West Bloomfield area. And can you tell us a little bit more about if someone is coming into the library for the first time, do they need to make an appointment? I know that you mentioned there are time limits on the computers, but if they need assistance from a librarian, how do they go about that?
So they can come into the building and just walk in, and we do have staff at all of our public service desks. What I would recommend if it's a first-time visit and the person wants to get a library card is to check out the website, because you can get that library card application process in motion online, and then you can just come in and pick up your card and get down to your business, whatever you need to do, and that part's been handled for you. If you think you might have more of a heavy-duty research need, it's probably not a bad idea to call ahead just to make sure, maybe we can start doing some things for you in advance before you come through the doors and have some things ready for you. I think I learned that in my old age, call in advance and get things going, because then I can just show up and have it, and then too, sometimes I babble, as will probably find. And so when I go to a place, I don't have to tell my story in great detail. I've already inflicted that on someone over the phone, and then I can just come in and do what I need to do and keep on going. So advanced prep is always appreciated, but you can still just come on in and we can help you in whatever way is comfortable for you.
You really are such a vital entity here in our community. Cathy Russ with us here on the Megacast, and I love that you mentioned about the library card, because I have a confession. I have been using my husband's library card. So when I moved here countless years ago, I still had a North Carolina driver's license, and you needed a local driver's license. So my husband had never had a library card. I'm like, what? And so I got one in his name, and then I've been using it all these years. And he's like, I'm so well read, because I used to drive like to Toledo for work or these other places, and it was a great place to check out audiobooks on tape. Just an amazing service that the West Bloomfield Township Library provides for us. But I will say, I was like, oh my gosh, I should probably finally get one in my name. And I started looking into it, and then I was like, oh, are they open? Can I do that?
Yeah.
But my husband does think he's very well read. He reads a lot of chick books. So if you pull his library card, he's like, people are going to think I'm weird. I'm like, well, it's okay. Hey, Cathy, if people are coming, the one thing I do like, you had the drive-through service before. Mm-hmm. How has that changed, and are you doing any type of curbside as well? So many entities are doing that.
Yep, we have it all. So, because that is, again, one of the things that I so appreciated about this library is that they cover all the bases. If you want to come in and browse, you can come in and browse. If you want to choose your books online, we will pull them for you, and we have curbside pickup service. We also do have the drive-up window, so you can come and drive up, and we'll have your materials there as well. And at the drive-up window, that's where you can return materials in the drop boxes. So, again, whatever way is comfortable for you, hopefully we've got you covered.
And what are the hours right now?
So right now, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sunday, 12 to 5 p.m.
And have you found such a need right now as more and more students are starting to go back to in-person learning, or did it increase because students needed that additional computer while they were trying to do remote?
So we haven't seen, I'll be honest with you, Ronnie, the traffic in the building is not intense. It's not what it once was. We certainly don't have the volume of users that we had a year ago. The study rooms aren't available right now just because that's where we've got a lot of our furniture stored. Our capacity limit, we're limited by the, not the executive order anymore, but the mandate from the Department of Health and Human Services to 30% capacity. So we did remove a lot of the furniture because we don't want to have the environment encouraging people to stay, because if we did that, then more people would not be able to come in. And what we don't want to have is a situation where there's a line outside forming to get into the building. So we're limited to 30% capacity. And another reason why we're not doing programming right now is, again, with that same order from the Health and Human Services Department, is gatherings are limited, no more than 10 people representing no more than 2 households. So it's just not, usually it's such a busy and vibrant and dynamic place. And we want that again, but we just can't do that now. So we don't want to foster that expectation or to send mixed messages. So no study rooms right now. So unfortunately, students are still, I think, primarily studying at home.
Cathy Russ with us here on the Megacast. I'm going to share a secret with the public. If you are in line, you want one of the popular books because there are typically only so many available, like on the big authors that come out. And so there'll be rentals, but then you have to put your name on a waiting list. Well, if you go to the big print section of the library, sometimes you can find those popular titles and those books available and not wait in line.
I love that you know that secret.
Not too many people watch us, so I feel safe sharing it with people. But that was my big thing. It's like, you love these, and to get on a waiting list for some of these, or to get on a waiting list electronically, could be weeks. So just go to the big print version, and once you hit 40, you need reading glasses anyway. And if it's in big print, you feel normal again. It's a win-win, Cathy.
We tried it. We do our best to keep up with the hold queues. We've got a ratio. So if, a certain number of holds is reached on a title, we'll get another copy. So we try really, some books, James Patterson, he writes a book a week, and it's like, how do you keep up with that? But no, we do our best. But yes, that is definitely the secret. And I love that you have that.
Yeah, I'm a library user. I know these things.
The other thing too that's cool about large print is if you do need your reading glasses, but you get large print, like if you go to the beach or somewhere where you don't want to wear reading glasses and just wear regular sunglasses, you can do it.
It's the secrets that get us through life. Cathy, it's been such a pleasure having you with us here on the Megacast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. If I can put in a plug, if anybody wants a really excellent, funny book, funny. The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. It's about a group of 4 senior citizens who solve a murder that occurs on the premises of their retirement community. It's set in England. It's British humor, but it's also just humor. I laughed out loud, truly, on just about every page. It is charming. It is delightful. And as a friend of mine described it, it was like the sun coming out from behind the clouds. So if you're a little bit pandemic or winter, you're done, you've had enough, try this book because it is so funny and really wonderful.
We'll definitely check it out. Thank you so much for being with us. We so appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me, letting me talk about the library.
Yes, this is, by the way, National Reading Month as well. So please take a few moments, go over to the library, check out a book, and explore a new world. It is a wonderful experience that for anyone who is able to read, getting lost into a new world is such a blessing that we get to experience. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, running a little bit behind schedule. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Corey Taylor. She is with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. As a reminder, you can always catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T, as well as 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. We also want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Township Public Library System for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Megacast on their Facebook page. We so appreciate it. Joining us now on the show, Corey Taylor. She's with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. We are in a new month. It is March, but March has been a year of, or been known for different weather patterns. And with that, some serious tornadoes have been a history, or part of our history here in the state of Michigan. With that now, Corey, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. It's been beautiful the last couple of days, though. So to come on and talk about tornadoes, you're like, wait a minute. We're enjoying the sunshine and the ice melting and the snow melting.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a whirlwind of weather over the last few days. We've been out actually filming for our presentation later in the month of March. But also it's very strange thinking about how 50 years ago, actually, this month is the 50th anniversary of the 1976, or the 45th anniversary. Math is not my strong suit. 45th anniversary of the 1976 West Bloomfield tornado. It's an F4 tornado that moved through West Bloomfield, and it's very strange, kind of the juxtaposition of the beautiful weather that we're having now, and then thinking about that, and almost reliving the history of it, because it happened in the lifetime of so many that are still around and still living. So it is very strange.
So tell us more about the tornado and how the Historical Society has documented it, but also the process to try to share that story with today's generation.
So when I started at the Historical Society in 2019, I actually had no idea that the tornado came through. When we did our March open house in 2019, that was the first that I had heard of it. And I had kind of been so wrapped up in learning my job and kind of, learning the ropes and meeting people, that when I finally sat down and looked at the topic of that open house, I just couldn't fathom, that it had happened in 1976, something like that. I just thought that it had happened so long ago, but it didn't. And so we have a decent collection of memorabilia and artifacts representing the tornado. And we have kind of pieces of buildings that have fallen apart that we have in our collection, and that we're hoping to have on exhibit in our gallery. But our collection mainly focuses on the memories of the people that survived, and the people who the families of those who were lost. There were, there was one person that died and 55 people that were injured. And so we kind of document not only the history of it, but we also document the people, and their stories.
It really is about the people, and as someone who I've covered countless tornadoes, so many of the interviews talk about the noise. It's sounding like a freight train. And did you hear those stories as well? What stories stuck out with you?
So I haven't personally heard the stories. Like I said, I was kind of wrapped up in learning my new job. So unfortunately, I didn't get to hear many of those stories. But you're right. It's the sounds, I think, in a lot of these kind of disasters. It's the things that I was hearing from people who survived Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Sandy. Those are the things that they remember. It's the sounds and kind of it's almost like when you hear a certain song, you're reminded of something, or you smell something and you're reminded of a memory or an experience. So you're definitely right. It's the sound that I think sticks with people the most, and I think is the biggest point to a memory.
Corey Taylor with us here on the Megacast. She's the with the Office and Activities Coordinator for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. And Corey, you're pretty young, but what's this mean to you to document, but to hear these stories about our history? Why are they important now, so many years later?
So they're important now for the same reason that documenting the pandemic is important, because moving forward, you can't stay stuck in the past, right? You always have to continually move forward, because if you don't, then nothing changes, nothing happens. But you have to be reminded of things that happened in the past, good, bad, and everything in between, to inform how you move forward. So that, if something happens that is repeated, say we have another tornado, we can learn from what we did, on a practicality level. If we can learn from what happened in 1976 and, use it to protect the people of the future, that would be spectacular. But also things like the pandemic, if we learn from the mistakes that we've made, over the last year, and we learn from the things that we've done correctly, that have protected people, then if this ever happens again, and I hope that it doesn't, but if it does, then we can learn from those things and help us, perform better in the future.
Yeah, and one of the incredible things right now, documenting history in the pandemic with today's technology and so many more voices being heard, can really reshape how history is retold. As someone who has studied history, what is your perspective or your thoughts about some of the early history? Because we know that it's really told through a lens of those that were educated, which typically was the white male.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. And, there's that old saying, history's written by the victors, and the victors were mainly privileged white males. And I think it's very important that, and it's heartbreaking to me that it's taken this long to right these wrongs, but, everybody's voice matters. And I think that people, documenting the experiences and the stories and the voices of everyone, not just the privileged, educated few, but everybody in the world is very important. And having those voices documented gives a more accurate picture of history. Because right now, when you look at even 100 years ago, even 150 years ago, there's voices that are missing. There's pieces of that puzzle that's missing, and we might not ever really fill those pieces in because those people are gone.
It's sometimes when you speak with some of the people that have lived through these events in life, it's getting them to talk about it, but also their stories. Mm-hmm. Some of them can relive it as if it happened just yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's so vivid in their minds.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that I think is my pull, is what pulls me into learning history and documenting it, because just, talking about people who are passionate about something, or even war veterans who are so proud of their service. And, to me, those are the stories that that I like to hear, and I just hearing people be passionate about the things in their lives, and not wanting to boast about it, but just wanting to share their experiences and their stories. That's important to me.
Well, it's so great always talking to our good friends over at the Historical Society, but also I love to see the passion in the younger generation, because we need people such as yourself to help document and tell these stories. And you offer a fresh perspective as well. So Corey Taylor here with us on the Megacast. Give us again. I have not had any coffee today, by the way. I've had no coffee, no Red Bull, no nothing.
Living dangerously, right?
I am. Oh my gosh, it's a hard habit to break, Corey. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I haven't had my coffee yet either. So the fact that I'm stringing coherent sentences together is a miracle.
Hey, so Corey, again, give us some information about the event coming up.
Sure. So we have several events happening in the month of March. March is going to be very busy for us at the Historical Society. So on March 14th, we have our monthly open house, and that's going to focus on the 1976 West Bloomfield tornado. We have some video footage that we're going to share. We're going to have a short presentation, but we mainly want to reiterate that we're collecting stories. So March's subject for our Collecting Memories campaign is the 1976 tornado. So if anybody out there has any stories or photos or memories that they want to share, you can submit those to us through our social media pages and through our website. And then later on in the month, we have a double header. So we have March 17th through the co-sponsored with the West Bloomfield Library is our Then and Now Our 4 Communities virtual tour. So we have 4 different segments in a video that we're kind of highlighting the different historical places in the 4 communities that we serve, which are West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Orchard Lake, and Sylvan Lake. And we have 4 different historians that kind of take us through the different places in those 4 communities and show pictures, historic photos, and then what they look like now and the historic significance of those places in the cities or the communities. And then that same presentation is going to be given on Thursday, March 25th, co-sponsored with West Bloomfield Parks. So normally that would be a bus tour that we would do with parks. But because of COVID, we're just doing a virtual presentation. So we wanted to keep our community partnerships going strong in 2021. So we have our presentation with the library, and then again, our presentation the following week with parks.
Hey, Corey, before we let you go, we know that oftentimes you're viewing history through books and through media, which is, in a sense, virtual as well. So for people such as yourself and other historians, when you have to go virtual through the way you're presenting history to the public due to the pandemic, how have things changed in how you're trying to share that knowledge? Or is it, in a way, a little bit better for you too, because that's how you're getting the information?
That's a really great question. It actually the pandemic forced us to get creative a bit. And I think it was good in a way. The pandemic, not good, but going virtual for us was I think in a way a blessing in disguise. Because it forced us to kind of take a look at the bigger picture of how we were structuring our presentations and our events. And we realized that format was not going to translate through Zoom. And it was very little effort on our part, which was great because we're a volunteer-led organization. But it kind of forced us to create our own content, which is great for historic purposes and our archives, because then we have that content now that we can reuse later on or share at different times or reshare at another presentation or open house. So because Zoom allows you to record presentations, for some of our older presenters who, we want to save their memories and preserve their stories, and being able to record a live presentation is great on both parts, for our archive and future use, but then also for the presenter who might not have had that opportunity, to record their presentation at that moment. So it's allowed us to create a lot more content and get with the 21st century.
And we all have to adapt during the COVID-19 pandemic, and there are some silver linings out there. So you found one. Corey Taylor with us here on the Megacast with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Always great talking to you and your team over there.
Thank you for having me.
thank you for being with us. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and then before we leave you, we will round out the show speaking with Leslie Raymond. She's the director for the Ann Arbor Film Festival. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards. Back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the medical director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask. Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local. Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together. Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. As a reminder, you can always catch us on CivicCenterTV.com. If you have missed previous interviews, you can find them on our website. Just click on the on-demand page, and there you'll find some of our previous interviews. Before we leave you today, Tyler, you're kind of a movie buff, aren't you?
Yes.
It's just one of those things, like during the pandemic, that so many of us miss. With us now, Leslie Raymond. She is the director for the Ann Arbor Film Festival. Great to have you with us here on the Megacast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Film festivals are such a big part of the industry, of those that are creative individuals. They rely on these film festivals, but 2020 was a bit of a year, right? So tell us about the long-term impact of COVID-19 on the film festival there in Ann Arbor.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for asking. We were actually all set in 2020, late March, to go ahead and have our film festival in the Michigan Theater. And then, just about 10 days before, when the governor was like, oh, we need to place some restrictions, we decided we were not going to have that. We couldn't have that, and that we would actually take it online. And we were.
But Leslie, I have to ask you, because this was a year ago, and I remember when the news was first starting to trickle out, and I was thinking, oh, no way, no way, no way. And I think one of the first things to get canceled locally, a big event, was like a Pistons game, and I was like, what? But you had to pivot very quickly. You didn't have months. This is days. How were you able to do that?
Yeah, we had 10 days. And our secret weapon is our incredible tech director, who's actually a University of Michigan Converging Technologies consultant, who, as part of his position there, it's built in there somehow that he gets to, on their dime, support us in our tech needs. So because of that, and because of our board chair at the time, who was had a lot of experience in the online streaming space with Internet 2, they ascertained, thought it through, and said there's no reason why we can't do it online. So here we go. And we ended up, like I said, in 10 days time, changing everything. We took the square peg and put it into the round hole. And there were some changes we made. We offered it for free, for example. We put it out on our Vimeo page, offered it for free, had live Q&A. What we found out in knowing that I should back up a little, because we're a little bit of an unusual film festival, because we sort of straddle the two worlds of film and fine art. And most of the work that we show comes from artists as opposed to people working in the film industry. And so, when we went ahead and put it online, we made it free. We wanted to take the barrier of entry down. We've known that as a 59-year-old experimental film festival, we put the city of Ann Arbor on the map all over the world. And then what we saw happen was 16,000 unique IP addresses visited the film festival during that 6-day period from 104 countries. So it was very eye-opening. And it gave us the confidence in, obviously we didn't know it at first, but now we made the decision this summer when we did our call for entries. We decided that we were going to plan for online again. So here we are, coming up to the March 23rd to the 28th week, where we'll hold our 6-day online event.
So the beautiful thing is that you were able to expand your platform. However, we are now a year into this pandemic. What about content for your upcoming festival?
That's a great question. For us, we did see a dip in submissions. We normally get about 3,000 submissions, and this year we got about 2,300. It could be that people are maybe financially challenged. It could be that people are having trouble producing, but our submission period is July 1st to September 31st, I think. Yeah, for 3 months, July, August, September. And I think I've heard that, other festivals saw a dip, many festivals saw a dip as well. But out of the work that came in, we had no trouble putting a program together. We, out of those 2,300 films, we have in competition 11 features and about 110 or so short films in competition. They'll be divided into 15 shorts in competition programs, the 11 features programs, as I mentioned. We also show the work of the jurors, so we'll have 3 jurors programs. as well, and then a few special programs, 4 or 5 special programs along with that.
So Leslie, for us that maybe aren't as knowledgeable in the film festival arena, how does this work? Are these short films? Are they long films? Big productions, little productions? Give us a backstory here.
Sure, yeah. One thing I like to do to also help orient people to what we are as an experimental and avant-garde film festival is just to kind of set the stage for that. What I tell people is, don't think about like going to the Cineplex to see a movie there. It's more akin to going to the art museum and looking at a painting or a sculpture. That's the kind of attention that it kind of requires in a lot of cases, that it's a little bit more introspective. There are things the artists want you to see, but you have your own experience too. Or also another thing you can think of is it's not so much like reading a novel, it's more like reading a poem. So that's one important thing to kind of keep in mind, in remembering that we're a little bit different of a film festival. Now, the films range from anywhere from 1 minute to, a feature film could be a couple hours long. We actually also have, interestingly, as a little bit of an outgrowth of the festival, we have some installations in storefront windows in downtown Ann Arbor, and one of the films that's showing there is actually a 24-hour long film by Jex Blackmore, and she's an artist from Detroit. And that's going to be viewable on the street starting this week, where you can walk up to the window at the Ann Arbor Art Center and watch it. And it's the kind of film that really it's designed where you can come in at any time and take it in and leave at any time. You don't have to watch the whole 24 hours.
Because I'm wondering about that. Even mainstream media, my husband, he thinks I'm so annoying when I do this, but I Wikipedia every movie that we're watching and I follow along, and he's like, why do you do that? And I'm like, well, sometimes it's like that backstory, right?
Lots to follow.
But when we're talking about this too, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, are most of these filmmakers full-time professionals, or are they trying to support their art in various different ways?
There's a range, I think, of the way that our filmmakers are able to earn a living. There are a few who are able, maybe they're advanced enough in their career and they're able to support themselves on their work. Many teach, or many work in the industry, where they, can, for example, work in special effects in Hollywood, and or maybe they're a graphic designer, so they kind of have a different, angle on where they're actually earning their paycheck that funds them to be able to make the work that they do.
Leslie Raymond with us here on the Megacast. She is the director for the Ann Arbor Film Festival, which will be coming up just a few more minutes here with us. Leslie, talk to us too. At one point in time, it looked like Michigan was going to be the Hollywood of the Midwest. Didn't come to fruition because of politics. What has been that impact on the film arena here in the Midwest, do you think?
When I think about Michigan and Detroit as a kind of a center for filmmaking, I know that there are these film tax credits that were coming out of Lansing for a while, and I remember when they went away that there were people that I knew who had sort of retrained for a new career, and then they felt like, whoops, that's a problem now. But I have heard that those tax incentives may be coming back. So, but that in terms of our local situation here, I think that has impacted certain artists that I know who have been able to earn a living in that industry that would then fuel their artwork.
Yeah, and we one thing with the tax credits too, we have to remember there were so many other jobs, like catering business really did benefit. I know I lived in Wilmington, North Carolina for years. Of course, Green Gym Studios was there. In fact, I tried to buy the Muppet House. It was across the street from me at one point in time. I was looking at buying it, but we were in a historical district, and I remember doing an interview with Frank Capra Jr., by the way, sweetest guy, because I'm a little one-man band doing this. Right. And I said, hey, the Muppet House across the street, I'm looking at buying it. And he was like, well, if you buy it, I'll get you a signed autographed picture of all the Muppets to put in the house. But then we had to have a tin roof, and it was just so costly. It was crazy, the cost of getting a roof for that house. But
Henson, who started the Muppets and all that, he was actually an experimental filmmaker.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So just another minute here with you. What do you think is the future of the film festivals here in the Midwest?
That's an interesting question.
Are we a petri ground for great filmmakers here?
I can speak about Ann Arbor a little bit. We here in Ann Arbor, there's not so much a culture of filmmaking as there is of people who are very enthusiastic to go see films, people who study film. And one of the great things about that and being an experimental film festival here is that there are people who are just naturally curious and looking for the alternative. So they want to come and see the Ann Arbor Film Festival. Next year is going to be our 60th, and I have, I'm confident there's a good chance we'll be back in the theater and be able to really celebrate that, and I think that we'll come back strong. That's us personally. I can't really speak for anybody else. Aside from the Michigan Theater, that there's a lot of love for that theater, the Michigan and State here in town. I think the community, will ensure that they are here as we move forward. And, I do want to also just mention that this Wednesday at 7:30, we're going to have a little sneak preview online. If you're curious about the Ann Arbor Film Festival, want to check it out, you can, everybody's welcome to find our sneak preview online this Wednesday at 7:30. It'll be a Zoom kind of call, and you can find out more information about that on our website, aafilmfest.org.
Well, that's a great place to leave you. We so appreciate your time. Leslie Raymond with us here on the Megacast. She's the director for the Ann Arbor Film Festival. Please take time to check them out. We so appreciate it. Thank you for being with us here on the Megacast.
Thanks for having me.